How's it going, guys? Welcome back to yet another episode of Vaughn Coleman Presents. I am your host, of course, Vaughn Coleman. And before I bring in my guest, I did want to promote this comic that I'm working on. If you guys know me, you know I'm a huge fan of a lot of different stuff. And I wanted to make a comic that basically is an homage to all of it. And it's a dream project I've had since I was a kid. And of course, it is Living Legends. For those of you that have never heard of it, it's set 20 years after World War III. Follows this teenage boy named Miles Hanksley who is struck by lightning while holding this mysterious crystal. And he finds himself awakening with these electricity superpowers and super speed. And so he tries to strike out on his own, no pun intended, to become a superhero, but finds himself in way over his head when he tries to interfere at a heist at a nuclear reactor with a villain that's totally out of his league. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. My friend Jules is doing a trading card for it. I got some exciting variant covers that will be in the works. Here is a sneak peek at one of the preview pages. You get a glimpse of World War III, but I'm not going to show you too much. But this is just one of the many battles that was fought in that war. But after that, the world has changed forever. I was inspired by Chris Claremont's X-Men run, New Teen Titans, all kinds of stuff, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. So definitely make sure to check that out. But enough about me, all right? You guys get me all the time on this channel. You know who you don't get? Someone who I love, big fan of, the man, Jimmy Reyes. How's it going, Jimmy?
Hey, dude, I've been admiring your X-Men shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So wife and I went to this old record store,
Oh, yeah?
And, we had lunch at a Chinese restaurant right next door. There's this old record store, and we go inside, and they had vintage shirts from the 1980s and the 1990s.
Oh, really?
Of like X-Men, mostly Marvel shirts, and they were used, but they were like vintage used, right? And I thought, oh my God, I love these shirts. I want them, and I thought about buying it until I realized that in the 1980s, a lot of I don't want fanboy sweat in my shirt. You know what I mean? Like just thinking about, ooh, what sweaty comic collector.
Oh, yeah, that's true for the 80s. If it's a used shirt, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no matter, I don't
Vintage sweat, though, Jimmy. Vintage sweat.
Yeah, like I don't think you could wash it enough for me. Like it's not gonna get clean enough.
It's drenched in it. It's like part of the fabric at that point.
If you were like I mean, you're too young, but comic stores like back in the 90s when we would go in there, it had an aroma to it. I mean, most guys had been in there for hours. We loved being in there. We were in there for forever. People were playing like Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering, and guys were sitting in there just like lounging around, reading. You could read comics in some of the
stores. Store? That sounds awesome.
Some of them, yeah. And guys would be in there, but there would definitely be an aroma to it. It was very earthy, and yeah, it's different than today. When I go into comic stores today, it smells like coffee and a lot of soy milk. And
So did they have couches and stuff? This is interesting. I didn't know they would hang out in the stores. I always just kind of thought you just browse.
So one store in I went like in the early 90s when like the first books of Image were shipping. That's when I discovered comics. So I would go into the stores, and I got yelled at a lot for just flipping through because I was only buying for the art. So I was flipping through comics. I got yelled at so much. But then by the later 90s, mid to later 90s, some stores would actually let you sit in there and lounge and read comic books. Like you could actually sit and just read a book. They had a certain section of books like, here, we want you to read these. You can have these for free to read these.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And then it was like the first one's free, and get you hooked, and then you could browse through the rest of the store and hopefully buy a bunch of books and stuff. At least that was the plan back then.
That's dope, man. That's really cool.
But the shirts were badass. I thought about buying them and just hanging them on my wall behind me and not wearing them.
Yeah, like a jersey.
Like a jersey, yeah.
You could get people to sign it, like the artists who did it. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, they had great stuff. They had some like Jim Lee stuff that I loved, and some John Byrne. And
oh man, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, I was like, man.
So that actually, we just kind of got right into it. So I guess I wanted to know like what got you into comics then. Like, how'd you first get into it?
Yeah, man. For me, it was I don't have the same story that most people have. Like my story is a little sad. Like I grew up in the ghetto. I grew up with parents that were addicts, And it was a pretty rough neighborhood, really rough. It was rough in my home. So I didn't know art existed. I didn't know there were comic books. There was nobody out there like with a Nintendo, or maybe one person had a Nintendo, but they didn't have it for very long before the police raided their house and discovered they had all the stolen merchandise. So
Oh
like it
man.
was it was that kind of neighborhood. But when I was about 13 years old, I got adopted by my sister, and she legally adopted me. And I moved on up. I went to a middle class white neighborhood. I had a bunch of white friends, and not that white has anything to do with it, but it makes me laugh to say white and see everybody's reaction.
I was keeping mine contained. I was like,
Yeah,
I'll just let Jimmy
yeah,
explain it. I'm sure it was going somewhere nice. So
yes. And over there, a buddy of mine, he had a bunch of comic books, and he had Super Nintendo, and he was playing Final Fantasy, like probably one or two back then. I don't remember what the numbers were, but he had tons of comics, and back then he would get them delivered. They would be mailed to his house, and he was playing Final Fantasy, a video game. I was just sitting around waiting for him to finish because I didn't play any video games, and I was flipping through Wolverine #1, and I read it, and I thought kind of cool, it's pretty neat. And our friend, he goes, "Oh my god, this is amazing! Like this is great. Can you draw me this?" And he starts like flipping through comic books and like, "Draw this for me." And I'm like drawing another Wolverine or Conan or I think Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet he had, and so I'm like drawing all this stuff for him, and he shows his mom, who at the time I didn't know. I just met them. She was a professional artist. She made her living as an artist.
oh shit.
Yeah. Back in the day, she would touch up photographs. She would actually have photographs that were printed before Photoshop, and people would actually paint over your face and to tweak, the eyes or whatever. Back then, you had to hide your racism differently. You're like, these eyes are too Asian. Let's hire an artist to paint them over, some eyelids. And I'm kidding.
Really?
I'm kidding. No, I don't know.
It
I
wouldn't surprise me. I don't know.
No, it was like zits and stuff. Like she was always taking that stuff out, or ex-husbands, airbrushing them out. But she would do that. She would always touch up and do airbrush photos and stuff. And so she looked at my work and said, "Oh my God, this is really amazing." And she was about to take her son, my friend, to the comic store. And she said, "Let's go. Since you like comic books, And I said, "I guess I like comics." And I went with her. I went to the comic store, and he's running around picking up all these new comic books, like a whole stack. And I didn't know anything about subscriptions or anything like that. I get in there, and she says, "Well, why don't you pick something, see something that you like?" And I didn't have any money, and I was like, "No, no, thank you." She's like, "I'll buy it. I'm buying. I'm offering. So I want you to get something." So back then they would put comics on a table. They didn't put them
The stands?
on stands. No, they would have them on picnic tables, and all the comics would be side by side, and that's how they would lay out all the new comics. And in the '90s, there was just a plethora, dude. Like there would be tons of picnic tables and just huge every Wednesday. Like a couple of hundred books would ship every Wednesday. Like that's
Wow.
how saturated the market was. So it took a while walking around going through, and I'm just kind of walking around like, nope, nope, nope. And then I see Wildcats #1,
Oh
Jim,
yeah.
and I was like, oh my god, like big ray of light, and I didn't know
That
people.
cover is beautiful. I've never read the book, but it just looks cool.
It's all right. I mean, you read it. It's not like, I mean, you're gonna like want to reread it again. I think I read it once back in the '90s, and I don't think I've read it again since. But it's not bad. But the art was so amazing to me. I thought, oh my god, it was awesome. And then my friend said, here they got back. They got Youngblood #1 back in stock. I got a reprint of Youngblood #1, and he's like, "You gotta have this book. You gotta have this book." And he was so excited about Rob Liefeld at the time, and so he puts it on my. I had Wildcats, and then he puts Youngblood on top of it. So those are the two comics that I got, and I went home and I drew my brain out, dude. Like I was drawing with. I had no art supplies, so I was drawing with ballpoint pens. I was drawing with whatever school supplies I had in notebooks and whatever, and that's all I did, man. It was just draw, draw, draw.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool. So you got. It seems like both your starts were #1 issues. And when you say Wolverine #1, I assume you're talking about of the. Hold on, let me pull. I
John
searched it.
Buscema.
That's what I was gonna say. This one, right?
Yes, that's
That's a
it right
good.
there.
Yeah, that's a
That
good
wasn't.
cover.
It wasn't mine. It was my friend. He had a subscription, and
Yeah.
those were the books that he had laying on his bed. And I just opened it, and I started flipping through that one first, and that was the first one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I got it. Let's see. I mean, I don't have an original, but I have it. You know, I've read it. It's great. That's a great run in general. I
Oh
mean, the
yeah,
whole Magipore stuff, where he goes
yeah,
by Patch. Buscema's. I think that was the first Buscema stuff I ever read. But I mean, he draws a great Wolverine. And then, yeah, I mean, that's a great storyline. But it's just, it's it's always crazy seeing how those. I mean, those stories are just they're timeless, right? Like they're just gonna forever be good.
I mean, that cover, Wolverine standing on like bodies. It was like Conan,
Yeah.
but I didn't even know what Conan was at that time. But, like Wolverine and Conan are my two favorite characters. I just realized like they're both like kicking ass and, just not even just beating up 20, 30 people at a time or something. So I think that's my fantasy. I think I want to, go start a bar fight and just try
Oh
to
yeah. That's
take
what.
on the whole bar.
God, I mean, he would get in a bar fight like every other issue for a
Yeah.
while. I
Yeah.
think the last, because I was just thinking I mean, I think he probably does in that issue. Let me look. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he does. He does get into quite a few in that
Dude, he was a
that whole.
smoker, he was a drinker.
Oh, back when they allowed that. Yep, here's a bar.
Yeah.
So I assume this evolves into a bar fight. How many pages does it take?
Yeah, that's probably the Sylvester shit. The general.
That was no. This one is still Buscema.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Klaus Janson inks.
Yeah, Clark Jensen.
So how did you? So you started drawing a lot. What was your first like job? Like, what did you first do in the comic industry, or
Well,
just in general?
I was about 18 years old when I discovered comics, and I had no idea I could draw. I just picked up a pencil and started doodling, and went, oh my god! Like I just had a natural ability for it. And a lot of us don't know. We don't know why some artists can just pick it up and do it, and why some artists are better than others. But I mean, art is subjective. I mean, really, but technically, why some people it's just easier for some to pick it up.
It's kind of like writing. Some people can spend so much time writing, and their stuff just doesn't strike a chord.
Yeah, I was just able to just do it. And I was about 18 years old when I started drawing, and I drew every day. I was just consumed by it. That's all I did was draw, draw, draw. And by 19, well, of course, I can't. Well, this is going to be. I don't know if I can make this joke here, but of course, drawing wasn't all I did because I was about to become a teen father. So apparently, I had time. I took breaks for other stuff. I took time away from the drawing. But so I was about to be a father. My son was going to be born at age 19. When I was 19, my son was going to be born, and I had to find a job. And so I got married at age 18, and my new wife said, "Hey, you need to find a job." We started thinking about, we got to start thinking about careers. And I said, "Well, I love to draw, but I didn't know you could make money in comics. I didn't know how much or where to start or anything." And she's so great. I mean, she was in going to medical school. She's very intelligent. She was like, just did the research, and this was no internet, pre-internet. So she gets on the phone, makes phone calls, go through the phone books, and she finally finds a local company called Antarctic Press. Called them up. She scheduled an interview, and they're like, "Yeah, come on in. We want to see you, next day," and blah blah blah. So it turns out they thought she was applying, and in the '90s there were no girls. And it was all Sausage Club, and they were like, "Oh my God, this soup's we're gonna have some bean in this sausage soup."
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they were just so excited. They're like, "Come on in," and she's beautiful. She's a very beautiful woman, and she was still we were still young, we were still teenagers. So we go, and I get nervous to before I go into their office. I said, let me catch my breath. Let me catch my breath. I'm a kid. I'm excited. I'm my first interview. I don't know what to say. I said, "Oh, let me catch my breath." She goes, "Okay, I'm gonna go in there and go, just let them know you're here." So she walks in with my portfolio, goes in there. I take a few minutes outside. I guess I took longer than just a few minutes, because by the time I go in there, she's in the front waiting room with my portfolio open, and everybody in the office at Antarctic Press, all the guys, there had to have been like 15 guys all around her, picking up the artwork through the portfolio, all just raving about it, telling her how much they love the artwork. Right? I walk in behind her, nobody pays attention to me. I walk in. I'm just standing there and I hear all the compliments and I go, oh God, they love me, they love my stuff. All right. And I said, yeah, that one, I wasn't sure if people would really like it, on that one. And they just kind of look at me like, uh-huh. And they go back and they're just talking to her and praising her work, what they thought it was her work. And
That's
I was like,
nuts.
and I'm sitting there going, thank you, thank you, thank you. And they're just looking at me like, what's wrong with you?
Like, why are you taking credit for her art?
Yeah. It was in the mouth.
What?
And yeah, there's a leather dominatrix outfit. There are catalogs of where you can order all this leather whips and
And he just had this out in the open?
yeah, he had it all out, right, spread out like he was going through it. And I'm sitting there and we're looking through my artwork and I put my portfolio on top of this stuff that he's got on his table and I just like I don't know what to say. I'm quiet. And he goes, all right, hey. And then he brings me over to his drawing table and he's got Warrior Nun Areola. And it was issue number 1. He was just getting ready to as a new book. He was getting ready. He was creating. I watched him draw. He said, hey, look, he was just showing me some stuff, some of the pages, and he was drawing as he was talking to me. And I didn't know that. I mean, there was a book. I didn't know that he was researching for the book. I guess that's what I put together now as I'm older. But he goes, hey, can you draw the Guyver? And I was like, yeah, I love it. I could draw that, sure. Because I knew that you never say no. You always go yes, and you figure it out later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's I've learned that.
So I knew that much at that point. So he's like, draw the Guyver. I want the Guyver on the cover. Fighting some kind of I forget what he fights, some creature or something. He said one of those, whatever those creatures were. And I said, sure, absolutely. He goes, all right, bring that back into me. And he gives me Bristol board. He goes, here you go. Here, I'm going to give you a couple extra sheets of Bristol board in case, you need to draw different versions or whatever. He goes, and I recommend like do your layout on paper. And I was like, okay, great. Because I didn't know you drew on Bristol board. All my samples were on paper, by the way. They were on copy paper and stuff. Like they were just drawings. It wasn't even sequential artwork. And that's what they were raving about. They were just like, oh my God, wow. And it wasn't even sequential work. And so I walk back out and my ex-wife is out there and there's like 3 or 4 of the guys are still talking to her. And she says bye to them. They say bye to her. And then we walk out of the office and I said, I got a job. I got a project. She said, oh my God, that's great. And I said, he wants you to draw this character. And she goes, awesome. What character? And I said, the Gaver? The Geezer? I don't know, man. It's some book. And one of the guys is walking behind us, so I didn't realize he was walking out to smoke a cigarette. And he's laughing. He goes, hey, there's a bookstore, there's a comic store right down the street. They have the Guyver. And I said, that's it, that one. That's what he wanted me to get. And he goes, just go right down the road. There's a comic book store called King Arthur's. Just go right there, and they'll help you out. And I said, great. So she and I drive down there. We're very poor. I mean, we're teenagers. We didn't have very much money. So I go in there and I go in the comic store and these 2 nerdy, fat guys, like the biggest guys I'd ever seen, man. We're
Sounds
both
like
in
a
there.
comic shop.
Yeah, the comic store in the 80s, totally different than the cool collect. It's cool now to be a collector and be a fan, to be a geek now. Like there's some good looking geeks now, but there wasn't back then.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah, I know. I think I was one of those guys that came in. They were like, yeah, good looking guy. I was the first. No. So I go in there and I asked the kid behind the counter. I said, hey, I need this comic book character named the Geever. And I swear the kid made the nerdiest laugh in the world. Like, and I didn't know what he was doing. And he looks to the other guy and the other guy goes, I don't know. They were like alien talk, and he goes, and they both go, you mean Bio Booster Guyver? And they laughed so loud, like in my face. And I looked over at my wife, like, I'm going to punch these kids. Like, forget this job. I'm not getting hired. I'm going to knock these kids out, man. And, well, I was a kid too, but we were the same age. I don't know why I called them kids when we were the same age, and they're both laughing at me. And he goes, oh my God, it's a manga and it's not a comic book. And they're picking on me. They laugh for, I don't know how long. And then he walks around the counter, he goes and he grabs me the manga. And the mangas were like $15, $20. They weren't like these little like mangas you have today. The kids are buying like $6. It was like a $15 book that he gave me. It was big. It was kind of a bigger book. and it had Bio Booster Guyver on it. And so I invested like $15. And by the way, for that cover, I got paid $50 for the cover. $50. So I had to subtract the $15 that it cost to buy the book in 1990. So but I was lucky. 6 months after learning to draw, realizing I could draw, trying to get into comics, 6 months later, I had my first work. I was hired, I was paid work, and then I was working professionally.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So you started. You were an inker too, right? Or were you just? Where were you?
Yeah,
You're
I
drawing.
I broke in as an artist, as a penciler.
Hmm.
Drew a couple of covers for them, and I was inking my own work. And Ben Dunn wanted to go into Western comics. He wanted to start doing, the big fad was, I mean, comics were booming in the '90s. I
Hmm.
mean, there were more work than there were artists. If you could draw, you were going to get work, even if you weren't good. And if you look at a lot of independent comics, or even just a lot of comics in the '90s, there's a lot of garbage in there, including my work from the '90s. I mean, it was just the right time. There was a high demand for artists. So Ben wanted to take advantage of that, and he wanted to publish American comic books. And he had a character called Tomorrow Man, which he later on got in a legal battle with DC Comics because they have a character called Tomorrow Man. And he had an artist on it, and he said, "Hey, you're able to ink. I've got this guy who can't. He's penciling. He's already finished the book. I need an inker. Can you ink it?" And I said, "Oh yeah, definitely," because you never say no. And I go,
Hmm.
"I'm going to ink it." I had no idea. I was inking a lot of my stuff. I was inking with technical pens that I saw my friend's mom do when she was doing photo retouching. She had technical pens, repeatographs, because there were no multi-liners at the time. So it was repeatographs, and the kind you actually had to fill with ink. You have to clean them out because they'll clog, and they were crappy. But I was using that to ink, and I had no idea what a quill was at that time. But my first work was inked with technical pens.
That's awesome. And how did it turn out? You think it turned out well?
Looking back, it still holds up. I think because I had an eye, I could imitate really well. So when I was really studying Jim Lee's The Wildcats #1 by Jim Lee, I was really studying Scott Williams because I was looking at the detail. Where as an artist, a lot of people will look at the shapes, the form.
Hmm.
They'll look at the panel kind of composition and layout. I didn't. I looked at all the rendering, the shadows, the light work, all the great finishing stuff is what I was really, really studying. And so I had an eye for line work, and I was able to ink. And then everybody in the studio wanted me to ink them. And artist named Fred Perry, who he drew very manga. And in the '90s, J. Scott Campbell and Joe Madureira, and maybe Humberto Ramos was, I think, around that time. But a lot of American manga was like getting hot. So Fred Perry, being a manga artist, said, "Hey, I want you to put your Western inking style on my art. Let's do a collab." I said, "Yeah, awesome." So my wife and I were still, when we were still young, I was still about 19 years old, and we had our first apartment. It wasn't in the best neighborhood. My neighbor next door was a crack addict. We didn't know, and so Fred Perry says, "Here's 5 pages. I want you to ink these for me, original pieces of Fred Perry," and he gives it to me on artboard, and I take them home. I start inking on them, and one evening we banging on our front door, and it's the fire department. It says, "We need to get you out of this house. Your apartment is on fire." And we're like, "Oh my god!" Like there was no smoke in our apartment. And they said the building's on fire. And sure enough,
Holy shit!
when I ran out, and I had a newborn infant, my son, who is now 30 years old, so it's 30 years ago. He was just a newborn, and so we run out with this newborn. Uh, it turns out my neighbor, she was a stripper, and we decided she was going to cook crack rock right on the stove. Fell asleep, and the stove all caught on fire.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So, but the crazy thing was, she runs out there. She's out there too, and uh,
Was she wearing anything?
not much, not much. Her and there were about three other girls from her work, the other dancers or whatever, and not. I don't know what they were doing. If there was I don't know if there was a guy there or a party, but most of them were it was like in my memory, I remember bikinis is what I put. I said 'cause I was 19. I go, oh my god, why are they in bikinis? I didn't know what all that stuff was, you know. Um, and so me and my I remember my ex-wife out there, you know, it was like, you know, she was mad because you know we had an infant, and here they are, you know, smoked us out. But I tell you that part of the story because what had happened was Fred Perry's artwork was in my bedroom on my
Holy
drafting
shit.
table. So the fire department goes in, hoses everything down. My apartment got smoked out, black char everywhere. His artwork was just, I mean, you couldn't ink it. You could scrape it off and see some of it. And I went back in the next day with it full of black char all over it. And I said, oh my God, Fred, I'm so sorry, man. Like, I don't even know how to even tell you what happened. So I tell him the story. Ben Dunn calls bullshit on me. Ben's like, no, no, no. I'm like, dude, yes, like, go by my
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah.
It, it's smoked out. I mean, they put us in another apartment. Me and my wife and I were in a tiny little one bedroom with a baby, and the apartment they upgraded us because the inconvenience. They put us in a 3 bedroom, just
Oh,
bigger apartment. These weren't beautiful apartments. I shouldn't say beautiful because I don't want
compare
that.
it though.
Yeah, I don't want to put that image in anybody's head. I was living in the ghetto still. It was all we could afford, and but it was a bigger apartment, and so I apologized for Perry. Ben Dunn doesn't believe me, and Ben's like, you know, and he's like, and Fred Perry gave me $25 for just the fact that I was going to ink it. He cuts me a check for $25, and this is in the '90s, and I was poor and everything, so I was like, I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna cash this, dude. I'm sorry, but I need it, you know. And I felt bad, you know, for doing that. So Fred Perry was super cool. He light boxed his artwork, and then he got it transferred over to new artwork. He inks it. It got published. So recently, about I felt so bad about inking his work, you know, and accepting the $25, even though I didn't get to finish it. So last month, they contact me and said, "Hey, Fred Perry needs a cover inked," and
Wow.
I said, "Dude, bring it to me. Yeah, I definitely want to do it." This time around, I had like the chip on my shoulder. Yeah, Fred Perry, gold digger guy. I had the chip on my shoulder of like, dude, this time around, you're lucky to have me. And but so I told him I was going to ink it for free. I was like, even though now I charge way above $25 to ink.
Yeah, I imagine.
But I said, you know, I'm going to ink it for free, and I'm going to do the best job I could do, man. I'm gonna give you the best inks I can because he was so nice to me, and at the time, $25.
See, it
That
all
was
comes back around. You know,
yeah.
you never know. That's awesome. So it's how many years has it been? And he's
Oh,
you're still looking out for each other. You know,
yeah,
it pays to treat people well, man.
30
It
years.
really
Yeah,
does.
well,
Might take 30 years,
yeah.
but it'll pay.
It
That's
was
great.
like, yeah, it came around and they were like, hey, you know, and I do that still. I still have friends like I have Andrew Dahlhaus who colors for DC Comics. He wrote me the other day. He said, hey, I got a cover. I'm going to do a Kickstarter book. I got a cover that I need inked. You know, can I hire you to color it for? I mean, ink the cover. And I said, no, man, I've got a couple of pieces I need colored. Let's barter. Let's trade. You know why? You know, why, if you're just going to give me the money, I'm going to give it right back to you. You know, so and
Yeah, I like his colors. I've seen.
oh, he's
I'm trying to
amazing.
think. I've read. I've read some stuff. I'm looking at his comic vine now because I'm curious. But
He also
I've,
colored the pieces you have behind us on the stream right now.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, his colors are great. I was gonna pull up, but honestly, dude, I didn't know all that. It's just fascinating here. You give such an interesting origin story, Jimmy, and how you got into all this. It's really awesome. Did you
yeah.
ever work at the Big Two or no?
Yes, I did a Marvel Action Avengers for Marvel Comics. I'm on Marvel's website. You go to Marvel
Oh,
and you'll see me there as inker. You know, the
gotcha.
books that I inked for them. I was Dave Finch's inker, and I say was, but I guess I still ink Dave when he needs me. But Dave, right now, he's doing a creator-owned book where he's inking himself on the interiors.
That's
So
awesome.
I just ink like covers and stuff right now for him.
He's such a nice guy. I met him at New York Comic Con last year.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a good
And
guy.
I know, right? Yeah, I hear that some Dave Finch art. His stuff is so good. He did some good Witchblade stuff too back in the '90s. I have it right here.
Yeah, like Tales of the Witchblade. I think he did issue 4. We did an issue of it. He did
Let
a
me
few
see.
stuff.
I'm looking at it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna get him to sign these. I'm trying. I like getting these. I don't know. Does this qualify as an omnibus? Yeah, I guess I'd say it's like an omnibus. Um,
yeah. I don't know
these.
how many pages an omnibus needs. Like
Yeah,
300
it's
minimum.
hardcover and it's
Something.
big, so I'm gonna call it an omnibus.
Oh yeah, that would be yeah. It's more
But
than
he
just
did Tales of the Witchblade. Let's see, did he do? He didn't
that's
do one.
no. I think it was number 4, but that's my favorite work that Dave. Aside from the stuff he did for me on Dragon Rage.
Yeah, of course, that's going to be the best always.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
same thing. Like, I want to get cover artists, like, or like artists who've done a lot, and I'll be like, this is the best work of your career. Just anything they do for me is going to be the best work of their career. So that works. But this is beautiful, man.
Yeah, what I did was I inked that digitally, and then we had Ethan had a an art auction, and I had decided that I was gonna ink it traditionally. So what I did was I printed out the pencils and I printed them out in non-photo blue, and then I did traditional inks on artboard, which I haven't inked traditionally in 5 years, and I offered it up on the art auction. So somebody owns that now. I'm shipping it out tomorrow, and somebody has that the traditional inks, which would be the only traditional artwork that I've done in my own book. I've done everything else digital.
That's cool. How much did it go for?
I think he got it for 250.
That's good. That's a good deal. 'Cause that's a
That's
great.
yeah. I mean, Dave Finch and I have worked professionally, and I've sold the work that Dave and I have done. I think the cheapest one I ever sold was like 3,000. So this guy got,
This
he
guy
got
got a
steal.
steal. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a 3,000. God damn, that's the
Yeah.
cheapest. That's
Oh
crazy.
man, like inking Dave, like whenever I'm working on a cover for Dave, like we did Power Rangers, before I'd even finished inking Power Rangers, there was already a buyer for it. I was like, I haven't even touched it with my ink yet. His art dealer already sold the original, and I was like, all right, and they're like, yes. So as soon as you finish it, send it off.
You're like, finish up now. Get it
Yeah, they're
done.
like, get it done. Yeah. So, and I think it sold for like 7,500. Like it sold for a lot.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And here you are back doing pencils and inks. So was Dragon Rage? So I guess this brings us all the way here. So what made you decide you wanted to do your own book?
Well, I started in the independents and been an inker, and I had been around a lot of entrepreneurs. That's what I was raised in. I was around Ben Dunn, who published his own book, created his own company. It's been around for 35 years or longer. And then the image. I came in at the time of the image boom. Where these guys were, creating their own IPs. And then licensing the IPs. And these guys were making money. Spawn became a movie. Jim Lee had animation. So I was around all these people that were very business minded. In that generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't grow up a fan of like, oh, I want to draw Wolverine, I want to draw Venom, and I want to work for Marvel. I never had that desire. I just ended up working for Marvel because they needed me.
Right.
And then I did some Batman Sanity with Dave Finch, but it was just because it just happened. But my desire had always been the independents. I always loved it. I collected independents. I collected Hellboy, Ninja Turtles, Men in Black. I mean, I was collecting Caliber Press. Like, I stayed away from Marvel. I really didn't buy anything Marvel throughout, the time that I got into comics till now. I rarely buy anything Marvel or even DC. But so I've always been independent, and I knew that I always want to create characters. And the samples that I showed Anarchy Press back then, the one thing was most of that stuff was my own characters. Like, I drew and made up my own characters, and I had some stuff in there, like I copied Youngblood and a couple of Wildcats stuff, but I was mostly just drawing my own characters. And so when it came time that well, what had happened was in the mainstream, work slowed down. Work got really slow right before COVID. Work got really slow. I was offered work at DC. I was already talking to the editors, and they were gonna, I did Batman Sanity with Dave Finch, and so they were really excited, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna put you on. We got another book, another artist we need. And then COVID hit, bam, and
There it
pencils
goes.
down. There was no work, and there was nothing. So then I started to find, I came across like CG stuff, and I saw people doing campaigns and Indiegogo, and I went, oh my god, like I can create my own book, and all I got to do, and the thing is, creating your own book. What I'm really doing is I'm presenting a product, kind of like Shark Tank, like what you see on Shark Tank. This is what a campaign is that
Yeah.
I'm presenting the an unfinished product to backers and asking them to invest into this product without a finished product. And it's a tough it's a tough sell. It's hard. And of course, with this being, a visual medium where there's artwork and I can show you guys like artwork and what it's the possibility, it's still a hard sell because there's no finished product yet, and so that's been the biggest challenge for me. But I've always wanted to do this. I've always known that this is for me. I'm independent. This is my home. This is where where I've always been.
That's awesome, and we're glad to have you here. And this book looks awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trailer, and then we'll talk about it more. Okay, hang on. Before we get started, who did that intro? That is awesome.
Me, I did everything on this.
That's a great intro.
Thanks.
Dragali, the true Dragon Masters. Humans with the rare ability to capture the rage of the dragons, wielding their powers as their own.
So he did the interior colors too, then.
So far there aren't any. It's I'm still doing the line art, but
Oh.
I'm gonna end up doing everything in the book. I'm except for
colors?
writing, yeah, including colors. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So Andrew Dahlhaus, he ended up being very, very busy, and he wouldn't be available until next year. And I don't want to make the backers wait any longer.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna color the interior, and I'm doing everything: the production, all the layout, everything, the pagination of the book, everything. And except for the writing. The writing is done by David Philpott, who he wrote the first version of Dragon Rage. And so if you look at my campaign, it says I've only done one campaign. The truth is this is my third campaign.
Oh.
Yeah, if you look up Dragon Rage, you'll find the two others. But
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So what? Yeah, you said first Dragon Rage. What happened there?
We Dave Philpott and I created Dragon Rage, and we created a company called Page One Comics, and we brought in a couple of partners. And I felt at the time that it wasn't the work wasn't being divided equally between the partners. And I said, I could do all this on my own, and they were using my IP, and I felt I should take this on my own, because I'm doing all the work, for this. It's so much work for no money,
Yeah.
And I thought, so we fulfilled. I mean, we finished the book. We fulfilled twice, and so I can get a book done, get it fulfilled. We've done it 2 times before, and so this one, even though it'll say my first campaign, it's really not. But this is a whole new version of Dragon Rage. This is me going back because I had two other partners. They were wanting to incorporate different ideas into the book in things that I really wasn't too happy with. So now that I have the rights back to my own book, I said, I'm going to do it my way. And Dave Philpott, who wrote the book back then, he said, "Hey, look, I still want to work on this IP. I love it. I love the characters." He's like, "Will you allow me to write it?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to work differently this time. This time, I'm drawing the book, and here's my story idea. Can you add dialogue and stuff like that?" And he said, "Yes." I showed him all my layouts. He added dialogue. He had a couple of suggestions to change the order way for the story to flow just a little bit better. And he's a writer, so I said, "Okay, I'll take your advice. I'm not a writer." So that's how we ended up working, kind of like the old Marvel way, where
Yeah.
like Jack Kirby would draw some stuff, and then Stan Lee would just like write in based on his drawings, or some of the other artists, Ditko and all these guys.
So it's kind of like your idea, and then he's the writer for hire.
Yeah, he's the writer for hire now. Yeah, he's under contract. He's already been paid, and for his writing, for his script that he delivered, and he delivered an amazing script. I mean, this guy,
That's awesome.
this guy needs more work. He definitely needs to be out there more.
That's dope. Does he stream or anything, or what other work has he
No,
done?
he's not on social media. He's only
Kind
done
of
the
smart.
first. Yeah, he doesn't like to live stream. I've been trying to get him a live stream with me, but I think he's going to do the closeout with me. Like, he doesn't really. It's kind of hard to get him to live stream, but I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to get him to stream pretty soon, and maybe talk about the story a little more, because the story is amazing. What it is it's really it's a group of these characters that we start the story out where we start the story and we introduce the race that we've created called Dragari. And Dragaris are humans that have a rare ability, and what they can do is they can take and absorb the rage of a dragon, and the dragon's rage is its power. It's its life force. So these guys can consume it, take the life out of the dragon, leaving the dragon lifeless and dead, and they take its power
That's awesome.
and they take on dragon-like features. And so we start the story out with them, with the Dragari, and these guys, we show how badass these guys are. These guys are kicking ass. We show how powerful they are, and then we introduce the main characters, which are right there on the right side of that double page. They're on the right side. Yeah, the girl with the pink hair, the kid that's the mage, and then the guy with the white hair, that's Thrago. And so we start introducing these characters where they are all separate. They all have separate lives, separate stories, and you start to follow them and learn about them. And then eventually these guys their stories intertwine, come together, and then they have a bigger story, a bigger purpose. So Dave Philpott has created this just huge story, but he's introducing it slice by slice,
That's
where
great.
it's much easier for the reader to pick up, to understand, to follow. It's not throwing so much at them, and it's not throwing too little where you're just like, I don't understand
Yeah,
this.
boring. Or, yeah,
Yeah.
you got to make sure you have enough.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance. I mean, I'm sure everyone who's creative, they'll have this like 5,000. And coming up with ideas isn't always the hard part, unless it's the condensing it and making it palatable for someone who's not you.
That's what Dave Philpott did for me. Was I had all these great visuals in my head, where like I hear like Zack Snyder, like he has all these visual images and he wants to put everything in the movie, and unfortunately he doesn't. Like, I don't think he's had a good editor or somebody to go like, hey, because a lot of his stuff I just go, this is too long, it don't make sense. It looks cool, but where's the story?
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm with you on that. I think Snyder can do like simple story like 300. He did a good job at that.
Yeah.
But he give him more than like 3 things to play with, and he'll add 50 subplots that go nowhere.
Yeah.
And characters you're just like, what? Like
he gets lost in his stories so quickly, and so I didn't want that to happen. Where I think visually, I'm a visual storyteller. As an artist, and so I took Dave Philpott's advice when he's like, cut this stuff out, or let's move this stuff around, and then he added some stuff in, that filler that we needed, and he just did an amazing job. And the problem right now with everyone tells me, man, they see my campaign, they go, oh my God, this campaign's amazing. Why isn't it seven figures. And it's just like, oh my God, it's so underfunded, but it's because, I'm still learning how to sell, and I'm not good with, conveying the story. And I've really have not done the story justice. I know what's going to happen is this book's going to get out there.
And
Be a
people are
big,
going to be like
yeah.
loving it. I know. I'm excited for it. When does the campaign close out? I'm just curious for people that are watching this
Well,
live.
I was going to close the campaign next week on Monday, and people emailed me, said, "Hey, I don't get paid for 2 weeks after that, and I want to back the book." And I got more than one email, so I asked guys, that are the other CG Kings, and I asked for their advice because they've been doing this a lot longer. And I said, I asked for, what do you think? And Ethan was like, no, just keep this open until you finish and you're
That's
getting
what I
ready.
think you should do.
Yeah.
I was gonna. I mean, I know nothing. To be fair, maybe take advice from Ethan and them before me, obviously. But I was just assumed that you keep it until it's almost ready to get out the door, and you're like, last chance.
Yeah, and that's what they said. Keep it open. When you're getting ready to go to print, and that's when you do your closeout, and give people more time. And so what I did was, when the campaign ended and I went into in demand, I shut down a couple of perks. So for those people that backed my book before
All right, what I
the
miss? Let's see. What
before
did
the
I miss?
campaign, there are things on there that you won't see because that others are going to get because they're no longer offered. So as I get closer and closer to my closeout, I'm taking perks off. So I've already removed a cover. There used to be a real sexy cover of the female. So
Shit.
well, what I'm doing right now is I took it off as a perk, but I left it as an add-on.
Oh,
So
that's smart.
so if you want that cover and you back, say you want like the main cover A right there. When you go to on checkout, you could still add that as an add-on, but it's no longer available as just a single perk. So the longer people wait, the less and less options they have. And I want to reward those that were, invested in this campaign early on. I want to give those people just something a little extra, a little more, to show that I really appreciate my backers.
It's great. It looks awesome, man. And yeah, no, the backers, you always got to make sure you keep them happy and that you're doing right by them, because without them, you can't do this. I mean, the independent, there's no upper, and honestly, that keeps us honest, which is a good thing. There's no, big daddy up here funding us. It's just us. And
Truly independent,
yeah.
truly independent. I mean, everything at trailer, I had to build all on my own. Everything, I had to build this campaign on my own, all the artwork. And my homie and personal rival, he says, Jimmy, can you leave your campaign open for 3 years? It won't take me that long. I'm actually a quick artist. I'm a fast artist. And so my book would have been done months ago, but unfortunately, my heart failure had worsened to the point where I almost lost my life.
Man, I'm sorry. We're glad you're here, Jimmy, and sorry
Yeah,
you had to go
I'm
through that.
very lucky to be alive. My cardiologist says I'm a miracle. They really didn't think I was going to make it. But so I'm here. But so I lost about 2 months. Where I couldn't do anything, and I was very weak. And people were freaking out because they didn't see me on streams and stuff like that. So I was trying to hide it, and people became suspicious as to like, where is Jimmy? And so then, fortunately, I'm here. My heart is improving. I won't know until December after my next echo as to how much it's improved, but we do know my heart has improved. So my book fell behind about 2 months of what my personal goal was. So I'm a quick artist, pretty fast. I mean, I can pencil and ink a book in 30 days. So, but I don't want to rush this. I want to make this my best book because this is my debut. I want people to just be wowed, like holy crap, this book. I want this to be a book that our community, everybody in CG, all the fans, all the backers can be proud of. When people in mainstream talk smack about CG's got a bunch of crappy independent books and a lot of first timers, here's a book that we can slap in their face and go talk crap about this book. You know what I mean?
I don't think I mean, it looks phenomenal. The story sounds awesome. I mean, every page I'm seeing here looks great. I do have a question because this guy, is this your main? This is one of your main three, right? It's three main
Yeah,
characters.
his name is Thrago, and he's and Thrago is really it's a way for me to kind of honor my father. My dad and my mother, who were addicts my entire life, and have now are recovering. They were alcoholics, and so now they're in their 80s. They're recovered alcoholics, and they're great. I'm finally mending that relationship with them.
It's good.
And
Glad to
my
hear.
father's a great man when he's not drinking. He's incredible. Now that he's a sober guy, and he's an alpha male, dude, and I admire him. He's a hardworking man, and he's incredible. So anyway, Thrago is a Spanish word, and it's a word that my father would say, and it's a European Spanish, not Mexico Spanish, where my father's Spaniard, and so it's Mexico Spanish. Thrago is like a drink. This is Thrago. It's a bring. And my dad would always ask me, "Can you bring me the remote? Bring me this, bring me that." I was his go-getter. That's why he had kids, so he had to do less work around the house. But
Oh, it's child labor. It's economic.
free labor, yeah. So I thought Thrago, dude, that sounds badass. You know what? Nobody knows what that means unless you're in Spain. And so I called my character Thrago. He's the bringer. He's the fire bringer.
That's cool, dude. Coming up with character names can be either I'm always either really good at it or I'm like shit, I can't find it. And that's such a great name. I
Yeah,
love
I'm
pulling through stuff like
inspired by George Lucas, where George Lucas said, what you do is you combine cultures from reality. You take real cultures, you make an amalgamation of all these different cultures, and like a melting pot. And you mix them, and you've created your own culture, but it still feels familiar enough where people go like, "Oh yeah, somehow that's familiar," but and it just feels slightly different. That's why the Jedi. A lot of that stuff. Is a lot of Eastern, religion and philosophy and stuff. And so I'm really inspired by that. So what I've done is in my book is I don't have like a Carl or a Richard, or you know what I mean? Like that takes the fantasy away. But I don't want things to be so far fetched out there like what that I see in because I'm newer to fantasy. I didn't grow up in fantasy like everybody else. I discovered Conan and all that stuff in my mid-20s, and that's when I got into fantasy in my 20s. And so for me, I don't like the real corny sounding names. I like names that are like I love what George Lucas does with Kylo Ren. Like
Yeah, that's a cool name. I love coming up with.
yeah.
Occasionally, I'll do the fantasy names, or I'm like something that sounds cool. I like that.
Yeah, like there's some just badass names out there, like Han Solo, and Solo's a Spanish word, it means by yourself, alone, and it's like Han Solo, like where do you come up with this stuff? He's got a Dutch name and a Spanish last name, and he's just like it's crazy, and I love that. So in my book, there's a lot of that. Like my character with the pink hair, the girl, she's one of the main characters. Her name is Nuri, with a Nuri. So Nuri.
Oh, that's a cool name.
Yeah, so there's no you can Google Nuri. There's no Nuri out there. I just made it up. I just took another name and put an N in front of it and said Nuri. And so it helped when I go and copyright and trademark my book and everything. It's easy.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So I just love creating new worlds, all the fantasy. Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks. Making and I want people to be able to I want it to feel somewhat familiar as some of the classic fantasy that people like. Of course, I love Conan, things like that. I'm a big fan of a lot of that. Robert E. Howard, of course. The Hobbit. Who's not a Tolkien fan. But Dragonlance. I love what those the novels what those teams did what they did in the novels. And I think it's all great, and I have some of that in my book, so there'll be some familiarity in there, some of the laws and rules with magic and dragons. But for the most part, we're bringing in new laws in there, and I think people are going to be able to accept them right away, and go like, yeah, this is badass.
Yeah, man. That's so dope. It's just so. What were your biggest inspirations? You talk about Conan. It sounds like. Was this like a long running idea that you've had, or like?
Here's the crazy thing. So it was the 2019 COVID had happened. Everybody was, there was nothing available out there in the mainstream, and CG came calling. Man, they saw my portfolio online, and I think it was Rob Arnold. I think he was the first one to reach out to me, or I think maybe I was on Twitter. I'm not sure, but Rob Arnold reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I got a book, um, Replicator. I need some inks on it. Will you ink for me?" So I didn't have any work. I said, "Yeah, man, definitely." And he just described that it was an independent book. It was crowdfunding. I didn't know any of that stuff, but I figured independent, sure. So I gave him half my rate that I was getting in mainstream, just so I could keep work. And that's how I got introduced. And I went, dude, I don't want to work for the cog. I don't want to be a cog in the machine. Like, even though I know it's not corporate, it's still independent and it's supporting a creator and community, but I don't want to, this is not what I want to do. I didn't leave mainstream and get introduced to CG to just be living like I was in mainstream, where there's still a boss and still telling me, I thought, no, I want to be my own boss. I want to own my own IP. I had no idea. So Dragon Rage was one day I just sat around and said, I was talking to Dave Philpott, who became one of the partners at Page One Comics, and I said, hey, what if there was a girl who could become a dragon? And what do you think her story would be? So we just started 2 hours of just on the phone, just going over what her story could be. And I went, this is awesome. He's writing down notes. I'm sketching on the other end on the phone. And I sent him sketches over, and he goes, great. And he puts together a story. And we wrote a story about a girl who could become a dragon. And that was Dragon Rage in 2020. And then John Malin called me up and said, hey, I saw the inks you've done. Your inks are great. I've got a book. I need somebody to ink. Can you ink for me? And I said, I'm going to take a break from crowdfunding, because at the time I wasn't happy with the partners that I had and what was going on. And it was a good way for me to tell them, hey, I need to leave this company. And it was an easier way than just saying, I don't want to hurt feelings, I didn't want to be mean or anything, and so I went on to ink for John, but I told John, I said, hey, I'm going to ink up till this point, and then eventually I'm going to come back to Dragon Rage. So while I was inking for him, all I could think about was Dragon Rage, and I just kept thinking, you know what? I need Dragon Rage to be different than anything else out there, because there's an anime called The Rage of Bahamut, and about a girl could be transformed into a dragon, and I hated that because I didn't know that. I had no idea that even existed. Somebody brought it to me, and I went, damn it.
Yeah, great minds think alike. There's always something, you come up with an idea, and then you see something someone else is doing. It could be across the world.
Yes.
And you're like...
And if you have an idea, like, I'm a big believer of don't sit on it. Don't wait, because somebody else has that same idea, and it's whoever gets it out there first.
Okay,
so,
that's good advice. Yeah, maybe I should... I have so many that are like clumped here that I'm trying to get out there, but it takes a while, man. I'm sure you're experiencing it too. Like, how many steps outside of just drawing, like marketing, social media, like everything. It takes so much time and energy.
Yeah, and so what I thought about was, how can I make Dragon Rage different? And I started to sit back and think, well, what is Dragon Rage? I named it Dragon Rage. What is Dragon Rage? And so I started to see that, there were different, like, D&D characters where, like, they're half-blooded dragons, or people can get, like, this magical stone or whatever and become dragons. And I thought, no, it's got to be something different, And so we created a race of humans called the Dragari, and they're able to consume and take the rage of a dragon. And so they can tap into it, and the more and more rage that they consume, the more and more dragon-like they become. And the thing is, they can push too far where they awaken and become fully evil, where they're just, these guys they're really, they've lost their humanity. So I want it to be where they're not OP, they're not just, because in the world of Dragon Rage, dragons are the most powerful force in the world, in the universe. I don't want to make my characters OP. There's a risk. You're going to lose your humanity. It's seductive, being powerful. Imagine if you could tap into power that nobody else in the world could, and you would be the most powerful human. It'd be seductive. I mean, think about like if you've ever worked at like a fast food restaurant and you got a kid who becomes a manager too fast, and suddenly he's just micromanaging and he's bossing you around. He's all high on power, and I'm like, dude, come on, man, like you're like 6 months older than me. Why are you,
Yeah.
you ever seen those people that get a little bit of power and they just
Yeah,
go
and
for their head?
they go to the moon. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would happen with in Dragon Rage where it's very seductive and it's very easy for them to give into it. So it takes very skilled individuals that can actually control it, and very few can actually control it and not become awakened. So there's a lot more of them, the evil Drugari, which are, think of them like Sith Lords. There's a lot more of these like Sith Lord versions of Drugari out there than there are those that are.
I take it she's more of like the evil type. And these
Yeah,
two, yeah. So left, evil, right, good.
and in the world of Dragon Rage, there are only a few golden dragons, and the golden dragons are the most powerful. You can tell the power of a dragon based by the color, and they're well known by their name. So she and her twin brother, who is right behind her, who has the a golden dragon, they are the only two to ever take the rage of a dragon. They were golden dragons. They were the only two to ever beat golden dragons that were, think of them like kings and queens of dragons. And so what happens is your dragon's rage and life is living within their weapon now, the swords that they have. And so their sword is where that dragon lives. And so they name their sword after the dragon. So when they're calling on the dragon rage from that sword, they people hear what name they have, whatever name that sword is, people know how badass they are because they go, oh shoot, she's got like tomorrow's power. She conquered tomorrow, that dragon. I mean, that's not the name of her dragon, but as an example, I don't want to spoil it, but you know what I mean? So they know. And it's great. There's a lot of, I mean, each individual characters, they're so different from the other. It's wonderful. It's great. Nuri with the pink hair has a secret power. She's been they've asked her to take care of a fennec fox, and they're like, this some reason this fennec fox is very special. So she's got this big powerful secret that she has no idea. She doesn't know. She doesn't even know anything about the dragon power that she has. She's the dragon who she's bonded with, because not all Drugari had to kill their dragons to take the rage. Some of it, when the dragons were about to expire, when they were ancient, powerful dragons about to expire, they could bond with the Drugari. And so Nuri bonded with her dragon, not knowing anything about this dragon, or how powerful this dragon is, and why she has to take care of this fennec fox. Why is this fennec fox? And the fennec fox, really, be honest, in the world of Dragon Rage, is the main character. But you're going to find out why throughout the series. So it's a hidden. It's going to be a lot of hidden eggs, Easter eggs, telling you, giving you hints as to why this fennec fox is the main character, and it's told through his story, her story or his story. We don't know if it's a boy or girl yet, as readers. I mean, you won't know, but you'll find out. You'll find out, if it's a boy or girl, and why this fennec fox is in, throughout all these issues in Dragon Rage. It's pretty badass. It's a badass, clever story that I'm not giving it justice, when I'm explaining it. It's like,
but it sounds great to me, man. I'm really listening. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I just the whole thing. There's a lot of heart into it, and I like the lore that you're coming up with in the power system, taking the rage dragons.
There's so much. There's magic in Dragon Rage. There's so much in it. There's politics. It's very political between the kings and kingdoms, monarch. Just so many different things. There's sabotage. There's love. There's betrayal. I mean, it's amazing stories. So many things that we're all going to be able to relate to. There's backstabbing. There's sabotage. Who hasn't experienced that, right? And the thing about I got lost here. I was going to say something. And have you ever been like, as a kid, you gonna go see a movie, you loved it. Think about the movie you loved as a kid. You come back in the elementary school, you tell all your friends, oh my God, yeah, there was this guy. He was all in black suit. He had a red laser sword, and and then the guy's in the white suit, pew, 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 and then the kids are like, what? Yeah, it was awesome. Star Wars was the best. Well, that's me with Dragon Rage. I'm so excited. And I'm trying to convey the story to people, and I'm telling everybody about, there's Dragari, and there's a Rage of Dragon.
It's hard to explain, yeah. I mean, because I'm always like, how can people not be as excited about my ideas? And then I realize how I might sound to other people. Yeah, like, that's it. Yeah. So, but once they read it, but no, I get it.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, oh my god, Jimmy, you explained this horribly. This is an amazing story.
Which I do like about hanging with people on and off streams as creators and seeing it. Like that's why like Fiendish 2, for example, is so fun because all the hours of just hearing this and I'm like, okay, finally reading it. You're like, yep, that's it. Like I can't wait to do that with Dragon Rage, hearing about all the Jakari and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
How long are you planning on doing this series, by the way?
Oh, this is I'm invested in this IP. What I want to do is I have learned how to be, I mean, I spent my entire life from age 18 or 19 being creative. Now I'm learning how to be business minded. So what I want to do is I'm building up my IP. And I hear people out there try to be sound. I think it's the current trend right now. Try to sound like, no, I'm authentic. I'm creating this. And if it becomes a movie or something, if they come by, I'm like, where they're like, I'm going to turn it down because I'm pure creative or whatever. I'm like, no. I mean, I love the medium. I love comic books. I will always be working in comic books. But you know what? I'm also got to support myself. I got to support, and I want to create an IP, and I want this IP to eventually be licensed out. If Hollywood comes knocking, they want to make a movie out of it, I'm for that. So in order.
And if they fuck it up, then you could just be like, look at the source material. If you want to see the real version, you still get paid.
Exactly. I told you this, and eventually you wait a little while and you can bring it back out, and there's another remake of it. It's what they do with Spawn. And but the thing is, you have to build that IP. So you have to establish your IP, build an interest in it, build a fan base before Hollywood will even get interested in it. They're not just going to come in and just go like, oh, that's a great idea, I want it. Hollywood's after dollars. They're corporate. That's
absolutely.
They have investors, and that's what they're after. We're creative. We're attached to our projects, but I want to build up the IP and build up the audience so that I can attract, licensee. And Doug29 says, don't sell it to Disney. No, I know, honestly, I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't want to sell it. I wouldn't want to sell it to Disney, right? Yeah. No, but I love what Disney did. Walt Disney is who I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Walt Disney had an IP. He was working. He couldn't really get work in animation and his story, and he created an IP. He created Mickey Mouse out there, and what he did was he created his own animation studio. He went ahead and he mortgaged everything he had. He invested everything he had. He even mortgaged his own life insurance.
Holy shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, he put everything on the line to build up his IP. And look what it's worth today. Billions and billions of dollars. It's a conglomerate. I mean, Disney owns everything now. And so Walt Disney, one man, just like you, just like me, with an idea. And how much are we willing to invest in our own idea? And that's me. I'm investing hours and hours of my day. If people could see me here, I mean, I'm a heart failure patient. I'm supposed to be exercising. I spend so many hours, more hours than I should, sitting down at my drafting table because I believe in this project.
Oh yeah.
And I'm happy. There are 570 backers out there that believe in me right now, and that's great. I'm so happy that these guys are going to get an amazing comic book out there.
571.
Or 571 backers.
Let's see if we can get more in this stream. If not, we'll get them later.
And I'm
going to be joining that list. I can tell you that.
And everyone that's going to get this book is going to be so amazed with it. I mean, the art that I have got in here. Now, let me share some art with you guys since people.
I'd love to see it.
Let me share my screen. This is what I'm working on, and I work hard on this. This is something that it's a business for me. I take it seriously, and I'm going to fulfill. This is a project. You guys don't have to worry. But this is so if you're not a Dragari, and you try to touch a Dragari sword, you're just going to get singed and burned. And this is the guy that
Damn.
he tries to steal the sword.
Was this one of the guys from the comic shop?
Yeah,
Just making fun of you.
they were big. They were like triple XL guys.
You're like it's 30 years. You're taking that revenge out on them.
Oh man, I still remember their voices to this day. I'm like,
You
those
nerd?
guys.
Yeah, you're not a nerd, I guess is what they were saying. They were
Yeah,
saying you
they
weren't
were
enough
like-
in it for a nerd.
because I didn't know anything at the time about anime. I didn't even know anime or manga existed. And then, and they had at that time they had VHS that you could rent at that store, and it was nothing but anime. They had everything. They had all the first like Appleseed, Fist of the North Star, Ninja Scroll, and so I got into all the classic anime, like the
Awesome.
first stuff, man. But so this is Drago, and he's so powerful that he could stop a raging bull. And this is actually a mage who is practicing. A young mage is practicing his power, his magic, on a bunny rabbit, and trying to turn the bunny rabbit into something else. But instead, he actually turns him into a bull that's flaming fire, and the bull just rampages through the village. Drago, who's out with a couple of women, he's walking down the street, sees this raging bull coming through with fire. He stops it with one hand, just like bam. It's like this is a bull trying to run into a dragon, So he's just like boom, he can stop it, and it doesn't even push him back, He wrestles with it, right here, and then because he's powerful, and this is a huge bull. He tosses the bull. You can kind of see my rough layout.
Ooh.
So he tosses the bull, and I'm dragging that over. And then Drago looks over like, wait a minute, like what the? And then the bull transforms into a bunny rabbit, back into a bunny rabbit. And the bunny's like, what the?
Wait, how'd that happen? What's
Like what the hell just happened to me? And the bunny just look at his face. I mean, I think I nailed that face right there with the bunny rabbit just be like, oh shit, what the? And Drago looking down at it like, all right, I just beat up a bunny rabbit, So then the young mage, is embarrassed, grabbing his neck like he was running down. The bull starts chasing him through the village, and it was rampaging through the village. Meanwhile, chasing him, he's like, oh my god, he's embarrassed, right? So Drago's like, oh man, don't worry about it. You suck at magic, but I'm sure you're better at drinking a pint. You're probably better at getting drunk, or something. That's not the dialogue, but I'm just kind of giving you the what.
yeah.
What's going on there? And the mage is embarrassed. He's like, come on, little buddy. Let's go get you. Let's go get you drunk. And the bunny rabbit, meanwhile, the bunny rabbit's finally back to his full bunny form, where he's not as buff and he's kind of changed back down. And these guys are walking away from there, going off to the pub.
So wait, who transformed the rabbit? Or
The mage,
mage,
actually,
yeah.
he's the one that he's a young mage and he doesn't know his powers. But here's Drago. I'm working on this page right here, where Drago is walking, singing music, and he's got his lady friends. He's got some-
look at this guy. Look at this Chad.
They just came back from Bible study, and
Oh yeah, Bible study.
and he's walking through. But he's got to have his dragon skills. We were at the time we were going back and forth the idea: do they always have dragon skills or not? So they're always going to have the dragon skills, the Dragari. So I need to put that in there on him. But
Okay. So you went back and forth on that.
yeah, we kind of went back and forth. But you can see that these aren't the most honorable ladies, And Drago's, he's walking through, and that's when the kid comes running by him and screaming and getting chased by the bull. But I won't show all the pages. And some of the pages to the left, if you look, they look like they're white. If I zoom in, you can kind of see some of the pencils. And
Okay.
some of them I hide because when I stream, I don't want to spoil it.
Right.
Because somebody might be dying, or something.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. And so here's a really cool page where Nuri with Drago and she's got this fennec fox, and why she got to take care of a fennec fox, and so she's getting ready to bathe in the river. She's talking to him, and
As one does.
yeah, and tells him, like, hey, you're next, so don't go anywhere. It's gonna be time for a bath. And you see her, getting undressed, and everything.
The reaction.
And he's like, Wes, when she tells him, you're going to be next, take a bath. And he makes the face of like he doesn't want to take a bath.
So, is that what that is? Because I know out of context, I was like, oh, he's like, whoa, damn.
That's what she tells him. And you're going to have to, or he or she, whatever the Fennec Fox is. And she tells the Fennec Fox, you're going to take a bath next. And that's when he's like,
Alex VRB said, make this page waterproof. Just buy multiple copies, Alex. Buy like a ton of copies.
And there she is, going into the take a bath and everything. So we get introduced to all the different characters differently, and eventually the characters all come together. But
I like that.
Yeah, they're not all together. But so here's Nuri swimming when she's underwater, swimming like. So I've been working. I work hard on like facial expressions.
Yeah, that's another thing I was noticing you were good at with, and I think that's another thing. Like I was looking, people talk about Michael Turner's art, but one thing he was really good at was facial expressions. I think he was really good at that.
Yeah. Like here, she comes out of the water, and there's somebody waiting for her. The guy, there's these bandits. So look at, I try to give her that face of like she looks up like,
Yeah, she's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, got to handle this crap, But yeah, so the story there's it's already all laid out. All I got to do now is just ink it basically now, and then I'll color it. And so if you guys are wondering what my colors look like, this is my first time coloring. I did a color sample to see if I could, and decided that
that's good.
I'm going to color my own book. And
damn.
Which means that I can save more money. I have more money to invest into my company because it takes so much money,
I'm seeing the costs and I'm like, oh my God, what did I get into? But you know what? Still cheaper than making a big action movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because at least I can just be like, just draw that, You don't need to blow up a whole city.
No, yeah, definitely. This is almost like storyboarding your movie, and once I have 4 issues minimum, then I could shop that around and get an agent and decide to, if I want to, have the story, pitch the story and all that. But my goal right now, I'm not in a rush to pitch it. My focus right now is I need to establish the IP, because I definitely want to eventually build a game out of this. I want a role-playing game out of Dragon Rage. I've already have a company that offered me, they offered that they'll create a 5e edition for Dungeons and Dragons, for Dragon Rage. I'm not sure I really like the 5th edition that much, but I'm still not done yet with my book. So, that's all stuff down the line. Maybe there'll be another version of D&D that people will appreciate more, and maybe we'll do that. Maybe some miniatures, and there's a whole lot out there. And somebody asked earlier if I play the video games. They're asking about Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls. Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt. I forget we were mid-conversation. But yeah, Elder Scrolls. I was curious too.
Yeah, and Dragon Rage could become a game like, like Elder Scrolls. It could become, I didn't play Elder Scrolls, no. I was playing the Lord of the Rings. What was that? Shadow? The one where he's got that evil spirit attached to him. Shadow of the something, I forget, but it was the Lord of the Rings video game. That's the only one. I don't really play video games that much, other than the classics. I own an arcade. In my house, my wife and I have a full arcade where I've got, tons of machines, and that's all I play. I play that. I don't play any of the games on like PS5 and all that stuff.
Gotcha. That's really cool though. So you play like a lot of those board games and stuff then? Or not board games. I'm sorry, not board games.
Like Mrs. Pac-Man, the classic, Mortal Kombat. I have
which Mortal Kombats? Because I know there's 1, 2, 3. Did you stop after the arcade?
I have 1, 2, 3, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which is a different board. And I have that. I have Ridge Racer. A few people, there might be some people in the chat that have seen me give a tour.
Ridge Racer, I don't know.
Give a tour. Yeah, it's a race one. It's really fun, man. When I say arcade, we've got tons of them.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, I've got Dragon's Lair. I got the Dragon's Lair.
I love Mortal Kombat, so I'm gonna. Yeah, I haven't played the original arcade games much though. Only like a handful of times. I think I played a bit of
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat 2 at an arcade.
you
But
should like play the arcade. It's so much better than like console version or whatever.
you think so?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely. But the arcades that I have are still on a somewhat of an emulator. Mine
Hmm.
are arcade one-ups. So we've got, I don't know, like 15, 18 arcade one-up machines. We've got a whole bunch of them.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it fills up our
Damn,
extra bedrooms like huge.
that's awesome.
Oh yeah. Beautiful Anna. Oh, you're asking if she's really good cook. And she's like, should I start making noodles? I'm like, yeah.
Noodles? Oh man, that sounds good. What kind of noodles?
Oh, she gets recipes like um, these like street recipes that the street food that I shouldn't say street recipes, street food from like China. Like if you go to China and there's like street
Oh
foods,
shit!
and so she makes this stuff, and oh man, it's awesome. Sometimes it takes a few times. She'll make it, and the first time it's like, yeah, it's pretty good, and then the second time it's like, wow, better. So she's making these new kind of noodles, dan noodles. I don't even know what's in them, but yeah, she's always cooking great stuff. So I'm very fortunate. Got this young wife who. Well, there's nudity on that one. I'll go. There is nudity in
Oh,
this book.
yeah, I saw a bit of it.
So
No, it's
there's
okay, YouTube. There's nothing to see here. It was like
yeah,
salami or something.
yeah. It's it's like all the classic fantasy stuff that I love. Like I have back here. I don't know if you guys know who Michael Moorcock's Elric. There's nudity in that book. Like every fantasy book, man, they all have nudity. Like Conan, so and Game of Thrones out there. So this one isn't as graphic as Game of Thrones, but it does have nudity in it. So if you guys thought about buying this for a kid, I would say a kid's gonna learn today. No, don't buy for this for a kid. It's not for kids.
Well, all right. So it's not for kids, but it's. I mean, it looks great, man. For just in general. I mean, I'm really blown away by this art
I mean,
and
for a
the.
guy who spent his career as an inker, and I really didn't develop my work as a penciler throughout my career. This is my chance to show everybody what I can do, and show
Yeah.
myself what I can do.
Was it a bit of a learning curve? Because it seems like you might be like, are you almost like relearning what it's like to
Yeah,
pencil?
I made a joke because I in the trailer you'll see there's older artwork. So when I launched the campaign, I had drawn Dragon Rage about maybe 80% of the book was done, penciled and inked, and I launched it. Then I had a heart failure, almost died, didn't draw for about 2.5 months, and then uh, got better, came back. Not only did my heart get better, or my heart is getting better, but my art got better. Like I don't know if it was just the 2 months of stopping and drawing or what, or the blood flow to my brain. I don't know, but I came back and I could draw better, and
You think?
I went back and I redrew everything.
Wow.
So I would have already had my book. I have two books out in the time that it's going to take me to put this book out. I would have had two, and so people don't know like how hard I'm working. I wish people could really just see the
Sometimes you got
work.
to do that. You got to just step away and like have something.
Yeah,
Like I would write drafts of mine and I'd step away and be like, I could write that better. And I come back and I redo it. So
yeah,
I can't, I imagine, I mean, and for you to come back, that's dedication, man. For you to just be like, you know what? It's not good enough. Because I'm sure it was good. But you're
yeah.
like, for you got to make yourself happy.
Well, I know that I'm not going to be able to create a masterpiece. I will probably never create my masterpiece. If I did, it would take me forever, and I don't think I would never finish anything at that point. I know that there's a point where you got a cutoff point,
Yeah.
but
You got to let it go.
this is my first product, and I want my backers to feel that because our books are $25, and where you go in a comic store, you could probably get something at $3.99, but the price really is irrelevant as long as the perceived value is higher than the cost you're paying. So I want my backers when they get this to go, oh hell yeah, this is worth more than $25. This is amazing. There's nothing out there like this. You know what I mean? Because like you think about it, what's really the difference between a Mercedes and a Hyundai? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
When you go and you pay, well, when the price difference is much higher, but you also know the quality. You know that it's worth the extra $50,000 on the price tag. You know what I mean? And of course there are those people out there who just don't care, and those are the mainstream people who are buying the crappy stuff on the shelves that don't care. But there are those hardcore fans that they know quality, and so I'm trying to give that to them, trying to give the best version of Dragon Rage to my backers.
And it's showing, man. The artwork is showing. Clearly, you like drawing the ladies too. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
see that. You're having fun with that. So you're having a lot of fun with this
Well,
book.
let's see. I got a dude here that is pretty badass. Let me see. I can show it here. Let's see.
Ooh.
So I don't want to ruin the top panels, but check this guy out right there. Just so what happens is, if you're taking on the rage and the power of the dragon, and you're fighting, you could take more rage and become more powerful and win the fight. But the more rage you take, the less your humanity. You lose more humanity and you become more dragon-like. So one of these guys powers up, and this is what he ends up becoming. And he's powerful, and he's dangerous, and he's evil. At this point, he's more dragon than human at this point. So this is the scene there. This is one of the. So I'm hoping people will appreciate it. When I tell people I'm working hard on this book. And
It pays off. It's showing off, man. In the pages, this looks phenomenal.
yeah, and if you see, like, I don't stream as much out there because I can't be sitting in this chair. I have a limited time. My cardiologist is like, you can only sit in that chair for so long. I need to spend that time drawing, getting this done. So I'm not on as many streams. You don't see me on, like streaming everywhere.
No, so I appreciate you coming on. I've really enjoyed this. I'm sure the audience has. And what I like about this is I do notice on my Vaughn Coleman Presents show that people do come back after, which is what I want. I want this, it's been a great, even just going through your whole career path. Like, even after the first Dragon Rage is out, and it becomes a big hit, which I hope it will be, people can come back to this interview, and that's what I like. It's like the same thing with good art, right? And I mean, I love seeing this in its genesis. And I really think this is, especially looking at it now, because I had seen your book on streams, but the more and more I'm hearing about it, especially talking to you and seeing the artwork and hearing about because I didn't know your whole story, really makes me want to back this book, and I'm sure it'll be the same with anyone else who watches this. I mean, I already was interested, but now I'm like, absolutely.
No, thank you.
Book is awesome.
I definitely appreciate that. I'm a hard worker. I've always been a hard worker. But the thing is, you're presenting an unfinished product to people who don't know you.
Yeah, that's a tough
You know what I
part.
mean? Like, it's like, I can say I'm a hard worker, but you don't know that.
You don't know that I could just take the money and just be like, all right, see you guys. Peace
so many
out.
people out there. But the thing is, I hope that it shows in my work that I'm very passionate and I love art and I love to create. And I hope that people hear it in my voice, hear the enthusiasm, that I love this project. And I just love this whole community, what we're doing. And so, it's going to be an amazing book. I got big things planned for this. The next issue, my next campaign that I do, I got another big artist who contributed some artwork for my next campaign. And the thing is that the covers and things that in this campaign, I'm not going to offer whenever I do my next campaign and go, oh, you can get issue number 1 and issue number 2. It's going to be a different cover. It's not going to be any of these. So for people that, when this IP grows and people are like, oh my God, I wish I was one of those first 571 backers. I would have had that original covers that he offered. Because I've already taken down a few covers. So already there's one cover that's gone.
And people will have, like, I missed Wraith the God. I'm going to go back and get it. But, like, I remember people were like after the first one, they're like, holy, you haven't read this? It's like, so people, even if not as many as you want back the first one, which 571 is still good, when they start telling people, dude, you missed out, man. You got to get the next one. That'll be something.
That
You
way,
know?
it also creates collectability. I want
Yeah.
later on when Dragon Rage is big, because it is going to be big. When it's a successful title, I want those that were first that invested, to go, man, I'm glad I got in
Yeah.
early because
Oh,
this
you
is the
don't have the
hardest cover to
first
find.
appearance? Well, I do. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't have this limited variant cover? You had to be there. That's the kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
even like your first Wolverine, Wolverine #1. I mean, that wasn't even the first Wolverine #1. And then on top of that, the character. Wait, that issue came out in what year was that? That was
Yeah, he appeared
80.
with Hulk. He was fighting
Yeah.
with
The,
Hulk.
your first exposure to Wolverine, 1988. So that is what, 13 years,
And
14 years.
I didn't
after the
find him
character-
until like 1991, I think.
Oh, so that was after. So that was.
It was a back issue that my friend had. He had there, and what was new on the stand at that point was Wildcats #1. So I just got my first comic when Wildcats #1 was brand new at the comic stores that Wednesday.
Absolutely, man. This has been such a fun stream. I
Thanks,
really
yeah.
like learning more about this. Everyone, make sure to check out Dragon Rage. This book looks kick-ass. The trailer is good. I'm gonna have to talk to you about, because I might need an intro animation. I might have to talk to you actually, but that's great. I mean, this is great. I didn't know you did animation stuff. Is that something you've done before, or is that your first time?
I didn't spend my entire career as an inker full time. My first wife was embarrassed at the fact that I was in comics. She didn't really like it. I mean, she was just happy that I had a job, but she was always telling me, you need to make more money, and so I ended up going into advertising. So I did storyboards, and then became a graphic designer, then became a web developer, and was just an amateur into all the other things. Video editing. I can do video editing now. I mean, I can do all this stuff, and all that I just self-taught. And everything I've learned has been self-taught because I grew up very poor, and I didn't like all these stories I hear about people. Their parents supported them so much, sent them off to art school, and I'm like, imagine how good I could be if I had that kind of family and got
You're
to
still
have
pretty
that.
damn good, Jimmy. You're pretty damn good. Almost sometimes when I see these self-taught people, I'm like, holy shit, do we even need art schools? Because I'm like, god damn.
Well, the one benefit I can say to being self-taught was I had the drive. I had the motivation.
Oh yeah, you need that.
You can't teach yourself if you don't have. You can't be self-taught if you don't have the motivation.
Yeah.
And I didn't play video games like everybody else was playing video games or people were going out. I didn't do any of that. I worked on my craft.
And it's paying off, Jimmy. It's paying off.
Yeah.
So everyone, make sure to back Dragon Rage. This kicks ass. Your story. I mean, because again, I didn't really. We've been on streams together, but I never got to talk to you like this, man. This is really cool hearing all your life stories, and I'm sorry, for all the stuff you've had to do, but I'm glad you're recovering from all of it, and you're gonna tell a kick-ass story, and you're gonna keep telling kick-ass stories. You're gonna keep doing good art, and we're gonna keep supporting you. So everyone, make sure to check out this campaign. Follow Jimmy on all of his socials. What are you on? You're on Twitter. And like Instagram and all that.
And yeah, my YouTube channel, everything's Jimmy Reyes Art.
Let me make sure. I should be subscribed to you, but I'm gonna make sure.
Yeah, Jimmy Reyes Art. I offer art tutorials where I show people how to draw traditionally, ink traditionally, and I'm also doing. I'm starting to do digital tutorial videos now, and then I've also you can watch Dave Finch. He's on my channel. Meredith Finch talks about writing. So I've had different guests on my channel when we talk about art and stuff like that.
That's really cool.
And the thing is, I've neglected my YouTube channel, and it's still growing. I think it's at 15,000 or something like that, or just under 15,000. So I really need to do something with it. I really need to start pushing my channel.
You gotta. But well, definitely. I was subscribed. Oh, 14.8K. Damn, Jimmy, that's good numbers.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm letting it go to waste. I need to But the thing is, right now, I mean, I'm so focused on Dragon Rage. But once
I know
get
it's
done,
so hard to focus on 5 million. I'm
Yeah.
always like, oh, I wish I made more videos, and then I look at my daily to-do list, and I'm like, oh, that's why I don't make more videos.
Yeah.
Because
So
I'm like, gotta hire this person, gotta do this,
My-
gotta write this, gotta. Yeah.
and I got my own website, and I'm like, I still haven't put all the stuff up on my own website, and I want to put a store up there. And the only thing is that 2024, my New Year's resolution is going to be to focus a little more on have more time for my YouTube channel. But like on my store, I'm going to offer like original art and prints, but I don't think I'm going to resell the comics. I'm going to leave that for like the campaigns. Like issue number 1, I'm not printing over. I'm printing just enough to cover in case any ship damaged. Like sometimes when the printer ships you the comic books, in my last experience, when we ordered, I don't know, like 1,500 copies, only maybe 10 or 15 were damaged. So you have to order over to cover that. That's all I'm going to order for this book to keep my costs down so I can reinvest for the next issue to keep this book going. Unless my campaign like booms, and then, I want to do that.
That's awesome, Jimmy. Keep it going. Keep it going. I want to see more of this. I can't wait to see Dragon Rage finished, and what else you got going, and whatever you got on YouTube. So everyone, make sure to support this man. I'm making sure I have my guests solidified for the next Vaughn Coleman Presents, but definitely if you're a first-time viewer, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to like. Make sure to sign up for Living Legends, my new comic book, if you haven't already, and keep on the lookout for whatever else I'm creating. And keep up with both of us. And until next time, be seeing you guys. Peace out and have a great one.